All right, let's get started. Just waiting a couple of seconds here for people to join in. Let's see where we were. I think the last time we basically said we need to kind of refactor the, what's up, Paul?
How's it going, man?
Doing great. Let's see where we stopped here. I was just taking a look.
Did
You're,
I?
you're trying to pass in an IAuth to determine which columns or entities to pick up based on the user token.
So, ORTHinfo is just an interface that I created in my code stack, and basically it just contains the token that they use to make the API call, and the user's name, which is basically, well, I call it name, but it's basically the primary key. It's the ID field of their user record in the database. So in my data context, which is basically just my type that inherits from EF's DB context, when I'm applying the filters, I look up the user's information essentially from that primary key value. Then from there, I can go into, say, like the roles that they have access to, and then from there into the entity set that I'm trying to secure. So I can basically say, as this user, get me everything in that table. And it never returns everything in the table. It returns everything that that user has access to in that table, which is a considerably different question. Does that make sense?
So you pass this IAuth and you say, I want everything related to that user. Did I get that right?
So when I construct the data context, there's that on model creating event, which is just part of the, yeah.
Yep.
So I call an internal apply filters there. And that uses EF's, builder.entity t has query filter. And I put in there an expression that says, hey, based on the user ID being the one that I have from my ORTHinfo that was passed in on the constructor, filter that set down. So then when I get something like a really complicated OData query that says, hey, go and get me all foos, expand into bars, expand into something else, expand into something else, EF deals with all of that filtering in the database. I don't have to write any filter logic because the query filters are doing it on a per table basis, or effectively per row. And what I've noticed EF is doing is it injects those filter clauses that I put in those expressions into the queries in the right spots. So I'm a big fan of, they've recently added this as split query thing. So what it basically does is it does a query on each table with those filter clauses as the where clause, and then your additional stuff mounted on top. It pulls all of those out as separate entity sets, essentially, of raw data, maps those to entities, stitches them all together into the graph, and then returns that back to your code. EF is bloody magic, mate, right? I don't know what the EF team is doing in there, but it's serious magic. Like, that is pure genius. And I've never found, like, I've gone to like the Dapper guys, I've gone to the people that are behind like GraphQL and other ORMs. GraphQL is not an ORM, but you know what I mean. I've gone to people that are building these like complex APIs and these complex data sources or ORMs underneath them. And I said, like, how do you solve this problem? Because this is a thing that EF is just bloody genius and does. But no one will explain to me, one, how it works, two, how I split that out. So, like, let's say I followed, there's a whole bunch of developers out there that say, no, never return your entities. Always map to some DTO and return that, right? And I'm
Screw
like,
these
okay.
guys. Yeah,
I'm like, okay, you've got an OData API. You've got to dynamically build a SQL query that pulls the right entities, but your API is exposing a graph model of a bunch of DTOs. How do you map that?
Right.
So they'll say stuff like, oh, we'll just use AutoMapper in the middle. And I'm like, great. So now you've got an insanely complicated query on one end. It's auto-mapped to another insanely complicated query on the other end. Something goes wrong. Your SQL doesn't work. How do you How do you handle that?
The only thing, Paul, that I have a problem with that approach is that this filtering needs to be visible so it's testable somewhere. And your
Yeah, so
acceptance.
the issue there is, of course, how do you test your database, right? Because this is ultimately the logic that's living in from
There
my
you go.
code's point of view, the database.
That's the problem. The
Yeah.
problem is that we need to take that filtering and put it on some service layer.
Now you know why I want Neo. Because Neo will allow me somewhere in the pipeline to say, right, what I want here is not an expression tree. I want pieces of an expression tree. Tell me what goes into each IEnumerable, and I'm going to have some iBroker that's going to be the manager for that IEnumerable. Then instead of relying on EF doing black magic, I've got these individual pieces of the puzzle, and I can go and query these things separately, and then I can stitch those things together. Yeah. So at the moment, I'm just saying, hey, an OData question came in. I've applied a filter to that table. EF, you handle it. And EF goes, yeah, no worries. I've got this, mate. Now, occasionally, I get a query that comes in, and it's like 10 megs of SQL that it generates. And I go, holy crap, how the hell did it do that? But it did
it. You need to apply pagination in your OData so you don't return everything. That's a common thing that.
No. Yeah, that's not the issue. It's not the size of the result set. It's the size of the question that's the problem.
Oh, okay.
If you can imagine, you've got an expression on every table, and some of them stack as well. So I've got, like, you can only see invoices where you have access to what I call a bucket that the invoice lives in, right? And you have access to the bucket by being on a role that's attached to that bucket, right? That grants you invoice read privileges. So from the user, you go from the user to the role from the user to the user roles to the role buckets to the bucket,
right,
to the bucket invoices to the invoice. And as long as that relationship all the way through the chain exists, you can see that invoice.
right.
But then the filter that I have on invoice lines, so the lines that are attached to an invoice, is if the invoice is not equal to null, you can see it. And EF knows that not equal to null means, okay, when I'm filtering the invoices out, if that evaluates nothing, then I know I can't see that line. And I basically stack the rules that way. So I can say, hey, you've got access to a bucket when you attach to the role, right? So I can say, oh, brilliant. So if I can't see the bucket, I can't see the invoice. So if an invoice has no buckets, I can't see it.
Looks like Joe has something to say for you.
There's a pattern that does what you want here. It's the specification pattern. So basically, you pull out your includes and your filtering and all that stuff, and it gets abstracted out to a specification.
Sure, but the problem here is not how I might write code to query an individual set of T's.
No, the problem is that you're tied in your implementation to your OData and your database. You want to pull that apart so that you can abstract it out so that you're not tied to either of those.
Yeah, but saying specification pattern doesn't solve that problem. What I'm saying is, yeah, sure, okay, let's say I want to do that. How do I write interfaces on either side of my service layer that basically say, hey, you're going to give me a question in, I'm going to form a question out, and both of these questions are going to match, and then I'm going to return some response. Because at the moment, as I see it, there isn't a nice way of breaking that link. And this is one of the biggest issues I have with OData, is that intrinsically what I have to expose with some slight quirks, right? So I can adjust the OData model and I can adjust the EF model. I can adjust both of those so they don't necessarily have to match my entity. So for things like when I'm returning users on my API, I say, hey, don't output the JSON for the user's like password information, right? You're just returning the user object with their user name because, hey, that's a security problem, right? Things like salts, you wouldn't return those, but they exist on the model, they exist on the database, They just don't exist in the API. So when you query the API, you're none the wiser. But it's a problem because I don't know how to separate the effectively the raw query that I'm getting in OData from the raw SQL query that's generated on the other end. There's no way in between to break that link at the moment because of the way the technology is designed. Look at the way it's documented. Hey, you want a new OData thing? Okay, brilliant. In your controller, declare a new instance of your data context. What? Who does that?
Nobody should have their controller access their data access layer. That's moronic and wrong.
Yeah, but
it only
that's
works.
That's the way it's documented, isn't it?
No. So you have to understand, like in the documentation, that's just cutting the middleman and the fluff so they can get you to the point. But that's not how production services are built. So a lot of people, do you remember back in the MVC days where you get to just say, oh, generate a controller for me for this particular entity, and the template would say, oh, give me your DB context, and I will generate the endpoint for you, right?
Yeah.
That was not meant for production. A lot of people went and said, oh, that's probably what people should do. Absolutely not. There is a lot of fluff that happens in between, in order for you to separate your business logic from the rest. And I know as of today, people still do that. They go and say, oh, let me just inject my DB context in my controller. That's wrong. Shouldn't
That's
do
a
that.
problem with
And then
samples and examples is people just start using them.
right.
So this is the thing.
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
This is the thing with your, you've been talking a lot about cul-de-sac patterns things lately.
Uh-huh.
I'm actually curious. So given that I've got, we're up to the orchestration level, right? I've got a complex entity. So my example of an invoice is a good one. Invoices have lines, in my case. They have references, and they exist in buckets. So there's these 3 child collections that make up the overall document, essentially. They also have what I call companies, which is like the buyer and the supplier on the invoice. So we've got 4 collections plus an audit trail, so that's 5 collections. So I'm now in this situation where
the vertical cul-de-sac pattern would be perfect for you.
Yeah, so brilliant. Okay, but I've got a query that's come into the invoice endpoint, and it said, hey, I want this specific invoice, okay, and I want you to expand into all 5 of those child collections.
That's okay. You can do expand through OData. That's fine.
You can, yeah. But how do I do that as a cul-de-sac pattern? Bear in mind that what I should be doing to properly follow the pattern is each one of those child collections should go into its own broker and should be managing its own rules in its own service.
Okay, hang on. Cul-de-sac is write, not read. That's different. I'm processing how you're gonna read. You're gonna write some data in a sequential or asynchronous way. That's me going and saying, instead of you waiting for 3 moons to line up, go ahead and stay at the orchestration service layer and scale vertically.
Oh, okay. So that's purely about breaking the
That's
right
just
problem
right.
down.
You know,
so how do you do reads?
The read then is you going and saying, why don't you just, whatever entity you're calling, go ahead and do an expand on that entity and pull the additional related entities out of your box. There are actually 2 ways to do that. You can do an eager expand, where you go and say in the entity framework include, and you include the result every single time you're returning that entity. You could do that. Or you could just wait for the OData query to come in and say include and expand, and it will do that include for you dynamically. Okay?
Yeah. So at the moment, the way the technology is written, you're expanding your OData query. Effectively, your controller returns an iQueryable.
Yeah.
And the
and then
framework then appends all of the expands on it.
Right.
So if that's working essentially per documentation, the iQueryable that you return was an iQueryable that was produced by saying, hey, DB set, grab that, and then you just give that effectively to OData.
Right.
Right. So if I've got a scenario where I'm securing that base set plus potentially everything that I might expand into because of its relationships, the only way I can see to do that at the moment is by applying query filters in EF, and then it becomes that black magic problem. It's like, I don't know what it's doing. I have an idea because I'm specifying what the expression is, and I can test that I get the right rows back.
But wait, what do you say exactly? Do you say for the particular row, do you say for the particular row where user ID equal the user ID in the row? Is that what you're doing?
No. I'm saying, so when have you not seen Entity Framework Core's query filters? Okay, so what you're basically doing is you're saying like I goes to, where I is an instance of your entity, and then you have some expression, and that needs to return a Boolean. And if that Boolean evaluates to true, then that row is materialized. If it returns a false, then it isn't. So effectively, that ORTHinfo that I pass in, I've got my user's primary key. So I can use that to crawl the database to find what I want to find and get that answer in SQL. But I'm writing essentially a link query that allows me to do that crawling. It's business logic, as you would say, but it's in the database.
Yeah, you know, when you give that example on the Discord, you just put ... and I didn't know what you're actually querying, but I'm gonna need to take a look at it. Like when you said has query filter, you said I fat arrow ... I want to know exactly what is.
Do you want me to pull up my code now? We'll have a look at some
Well, not
examples.
now. This is the OData Neo session.
Yeah, we'll take it offline. But it is a problem, basically. And this is one of the things that I'm hoping Neo will solve. Because it will, like I said, if we do it right, we should be able to take sub-expressions like expands, and we should be able to pull those out and say, hey, give me the result of some service call for that, for just that. And then do that at every level, every depth in the chain, effectively. And then that allows me to say, okay, at a database level, I'm never going to get these kind of graph level queries from something that I'm returning to the user. I'm always going to know that I'm just querying a flat set. So now I can implement in that first stage service, I can implement my filtering however I want, the same way, essentially. I might apply, you know, a link query in the same way, but at least I've got that opportunity to take the black box out. The only thing that I can see as being a potential issue here is the performance hit. You end up with an ON problem where if I want 100 invoices, because that's what's in the page that has been requested, I've now got to go into each of those brokers 100 times, or I've got to find a way of compiling the business logic such that those 100 questions into the broker become one question, and then I can stitch the things together like EF does. Again, black magic. It's crazy how powerful EF is. And when I start explaining this sort of thing to people, they just blank out. Nobody gets it. Like when I asked the Dapper guys about it, they were like, not our problem. You know,
the Dapper guys will say, write your own queries, right?
Figure it out yourself. And I'm like, but Microsoft did this for me. They got AJ Vickers or whatever his name is, you know, genius.
They'll call you a Microsoft shell. Nothing is ever.
Yeah, of course they will.
Have you seen this group of people? It doesn't matter what Microsoft is doing, they hate it anyway because it's Microsoft. Like if you take away Microsoft and put in Google or Apple or whatever, they'll be like, oh, we love it.
It's awesome. Yeah.
These are bigoted, you know, people I don't really care much for. They don't use their brain. So anyway, let's go back to this. So let me go back to where we were, and we were talking last time about you know, having a query like this and then running with that query, right? And we want this query to basically translate into either separators or words. I love that. This made me very, very happy. Now, since Paul, since you're the last person that did this, you need to write a failing test. And we need to randomize this. But before we randomize, I really want people to understand why we randomized. You guys understand that I can just go in here and take away all of this implementation that we have in here. And I can literally just do this and your test will still pass. The reason why is that because you're not randomizing. It's protecting your input. This might be very simple. I was showing this to a, see, your test is happy. Why? Because you didn't randomize. That's why we randomize our input, right? I was having this conversation with someone the other day and they said, Oh, we will catch it in the code reviews. And that's single-handedly the dumbest answer I've ever heard in my entire life. I didn't mention their name, so I get to insult them all I want. The reason
Never
why
rely on a human.
Exactly. So there it is, right? That's number one. Number two, the more and more complex the system gets, and when you realize you actually need randomization, it'll be too late in the game. You've already hard coded half of your system, and you expected that your test will pass because you're gonna catch it in your code reviews. So this is why we randomize. I want people to understand it's not just a show off. I'm not trying to kind of, there's a reason we randomize. The other reason for randomization, which have helped me a lot, is that when you randomize, I actually expected Paul to put that answer so we can enforce randomization, but that's okay. That works too. But the other reason we randomize is that it will help you find out edge cases that you didn't know it exists. And that's big, right? Because now, in the scarcity, do you guys remember QAs, quality assurance engineers? There used to be an actual job, and then it started to disappear slowly but surely because software engineers said, "Oh, we will write the tests." Do you know? Do you know what's a bad
Those guys
recipe?
were wrong. They should never have said that.
Let me just tell you something funny. The worst thing in the world, or the worst decision, is if you have the creator of a product test their own product, because they will only go through the passages and the paths and the flows that they have programmed, right? They're never gonna go through the unexpected. The joke goes like this, software engineers built a bar. So the quality assurance engineer tried the bar with 1 order, 2 orders, 3 orders, 1,000 orders, and then called it done. And then the customer walked into the bar and asked where the bathroom is, and the bar just blew up and went into 500 exceptions because it didn't know how to handle that scenario. That's real world for you. That's how it works, right? Anyway, so Paul, do you want to randomize? Paul is too busy doing I off. Son, do you want to write code with us today, or what's your deal?
I'm somewhat distracted because
Let's give it to
our
Joe.
code
Joe,
base is
do you want
being
to
a bit
do you want
unreliable.
to randomize
I can
this,
write a
Joe?
test.
Let's go. So we just want to modify this test to be more random based. Let's see.
Randomy.
Yeah, we need to randomize it.
Right click, OData, Neo.
Your project is not open. That's
Well,
that
I
get.
was anticipating Paul doing something.
Yeah, Paul doesn't want to work today. He just
I
want to talk.
closed it when you're like, Paul's gonna write code. I'm like, click.
That's Paul for you right there. Just
All right,
sitting there,
we go down.
speaking funny.
I'm asking all the important questions, yeah?
Uh-huh.
Driving things forward,
May as
giving
well
you
run it.
proper innovation, showing
May-
you how to separate your
Yeah,
OData from your EF.
yeah. May as well run as a program manager. For God's sake. Just
Well, someone's got to fill in for Nick, right?
Nick these
Oh,
days. Nick these days is actually playing a program manager. He shows up one time a month.
Is it
And
done
he
yet?
says
No?
and he says a
When's it
bunch
gonna
of
be
shit, and then he just disappears.
done? Pretty much.
Okay. All right.
So last was,
That was supposed to be Paul. Yep.
yeah, that's Paul. Why
Okay.
is it so small?
I did
So
do
how
a
do we
couple of
random-
minor changes after we finished last week. I pushed a couple more commits, just tidying it up because it was like thrown together quite quickly. So I thought, oh yeah.
Just a quick thing, Joe. The validity of the OData query does not matter. The validity of the OData query does not matter in any way, shape, or form. If I were you,
What happens if you put a dollar sign in the middle of filter?
it doesn't
Nothing.
matter. Not at this stage. Let's just see how he does it. How he does it. Can I give you suggestions, or do you want to do it on your own?
You can try. I might not take them.
If you
Be right back.
if you create every token that we parse, in addition to one randomly generated word, and then you run a random selector for multiple on a random list length, it will generate these items for you automatically. You know what I
Oh
mean?
yeah, I remember seeing that in the last
Yeah,
set of
that's
code.
exactly what we did last time.
Um,
If we can get that today, I'll be happy. Because there will be nothing else left in the tokenization service. We can call it done. Well, maybe a little bit of validation, but that's pretty much it.
all right, so I'm gonna build the theory data, which we're gonna call
Why? You don't need theory data. Just create a list of all the possible tokens and then randomize.
Okay. We'll do that.
You should watch this
I
new.
can just do an array.
Yeah. I'm okay with that. Whatever works for you. You should watch this new cul-de-sac
I
video.
started to.
It's gonna blow your mind, you know. And then there's more things coming down the pipeline. I just need to find time. So this pattern was born out of conversation with multiple people. One of them is Paul. You know, they come up with problems like these, and I'm like, okay, can I scale vertically? You know, this makes me happy. I'm very happy that I can get that out. You guys have no idea. Like, by the way, I was running that video yesterday. I had no idea whether it's gonna work or not. I swear to God, I've never done it before. And I
I'm
got,
actually curious to sit down with you and just do like the piece of the system that I've shown you, just to see how it actually handles real world. We'll build it out,
well,
and then you can actually have a
if you
real world
stop saying you're
example.
building SharePoint, maybe I will, but
There's my content management system, which is separate. This is the B2B stuff. So yeah, it's a whole different product basically. And I don't think Microsoft is competing with that at all. Like, I don't think Microsoft does supply chain finance. It's not a thing that I've ever heard of Microsoft doing. I'm sure they have some product somewhere that probably could do it. You could probably map it out in something, presumably Dynamics or something. I don't know, but who knows? Well, you could probably, I mean, given the flexibility of SharePoint, right? You could build anything in SharePoint. So you could argue Microsoft is competing with the entire planet. Well,
we are.
where do you go? You can't be competing with everyone because everyone's your customer because you're Microsoft.
It's a great company.
It is.
Okay. My dude, okay, so you're gonna build them all. Okay, perfect.
Yeah, I'm starting off simple, and then we'll throw random stuff in it for now.
Okay.
All right. 2 random tokens.
Right. Just 2. That's all you get. Be
For
great.
right now.
And then we want to generate a bunch of them.
What was that library you used? It was.
Oh, object filler?
Yeah, it's in here somewhere. Object filler.
Yeah. I only use it every day.
I don't.
Yikes. So let me tell you guys, I'm building 2 new libraries, 2 new NuGet packages. One of them is stands up, you know, fake APIs like Pact. So you can build end-to-end systems. You get to determine the input and what the output be for an API. And then the other one is for queues. You're gonna love it. That lake queue, it's gonna be perfect library.
Lake Hugh?
Yeah, lake queue.
Sounds French.
Get it? Get it?
Yeah.
Or Q Lake. I don't know. What do you think, Paul? Should we say Q Lake or Lake Q?
I think you should just put everything under the Neo brand. So you have neo.odata, neo.lakehouse, neo.q.
Who said anything about the lake house? What are you talking about?
Yeah, you've never mentioned it at all ever before. I'm sorry I brought it up.
I don't even know. I don't even know that the lake and the Q came together. Maybe Lake Q is a bad name. It sounds like Lake U, you know. Let's not do that. Maybe Q Lake then. I like Q Lake because it will allow you to, you can shift from have I talked to you guys before about the offline kind of airplane mode development? You want to stand up your whole stack and not be connected to the internet and still be able to test your system end to end across multiple containers or microservices.
Yeah, as your service bus team.
Right. So we want to do something. I want to build a library that allows you to hook up to whatever queue you want or run it locally.
I can't find any documentation actually that lets me create a queue from code on
There
Azure
isn't.
Service Bus.
There
Isn't
isn't.
any. Oh, well, that
Oh,
seems a bit silly.
wait. You mean provision a queue in the
Yeah.
cloud? In the cloud.
Yeah.
Oh, dude, look at my open source code. You're just you're a funny guy.
You depend on a package version that's been deprecated though. So I've taken the new one, the 7.2.0 version.
No. Azure Fluent Provision API. That's provisioning a queue.
Oh, does it? Oh, okay. I'll have to have a look at that. Oh, it's another bloody dependency.
Paul is so ignorant.
So many dependencies. God, why can't you guys just build things that are simple?
You do know that I build my infrastructure in C#, right?
Yeah, I need to look at this ARM template and stuff at some point.
Yikes.
I know, I do everything manually at the moment. It's horrible. It really is. Because it would be nice for me to be able to just like, there we go, I've got a new environment.
And I love how GitHub can just, understand your provision code. So every time you merge into master, it deploys. Continuous deployment, continuous integrate, continuous integration, CI, continuous deployment, CD. Love it. It's beautiful.
Does it redeploy everything? Does it tear the old down and build the new up?
Yeah.
So, like, what if you have like
it doesn't re-provision, it redeploys.
Oh, okay. So what? It's not removing the old resources. It's just
no, it's just deploying your new code.
Get confused on that one.
So there's re-provision and there's redeployment. Provision creates resources and deletes resources. Deployment takes your code and puts it in things.
That's pretty cool.
And all of it needs to be done in C#. According to the standard, do not switch languages and technologies. That's my rule. If you have to work with multiple technologies, this is why you guys remember how LINQ, you still can write LINQ expressions in a SQL format in C#. Not stringified SQL query, but a SQL format, like select X from...
Who does that? Come on, nobody uses
Do you know why
that.
it died? Do you know why it died? Because of people like me going around telling people, why am I writing SQL in C#? I don't want to do that. The Scala folks, they went and said, oh, we're going to treat XML as a first-class citizen in our code. Crazy freaks. Crazy freaks. And they were very happy with it. I don't know why, but I thought that was like a disaster. To me, that's a disaster. Okay, mnemonic string. You need the M to be uppercase. And you need to...
Yeah, I'm just gonna shorten my typing here.
Okay, Joe. Who else wanted to treat, I mean, JavaScript treats JSON as a first-class citizen. But then JSON is literally JavaScript object notation. So it's in the name.
Yeah, it's kind of part of it, isn't it? Maybe we need C# object notation.
Oh, I like that. Maybe that's a good idea.
Oh God, what have I done?
C# object notation. I see a NuGet library on my way. All right. So this is get random separator. You're gonna have to list all the separators in the world. Which is okay.
I will not.
Why?
We only have...
We have them all.
No, I gotta go over here. No, I'm in the wrong thing. Over here. These are the separators that we care about.
I would just define them as a string and then
wait, are these all the separators in the world?
We're not dealing with all the separators in the world. We're dealing with the separators that we're currently testing for. If you want to add more, then we'll build tests specifically.
I like that. We're just gonna add more cases. Okay, yeah, let's go.
Well, hopefully we don't do it this way going forward, but right now it's going to allow us
Joe,
to move on. Yes.
Joe,
Joe,
why are you doing that?
line 35, you've got your selector, right? If you turn those into a string, then you can just do string and then use indexing on it and just return
We
the
could,
one
yeah.
index.
Why do you have to complicate things, Paul?
How's that complicated? That would be less code because it would literally just be like string.
Less code
brackets,
is not always a good thing,
selector.
you know.
Yeah.
Less
now I
code could
forgot.
mean no readability at
1,
all.
2, 3, 4 of them.
Why do you love list code so much?
1, 2, 3, 4. There we go.
Paul is weird.
That's why I'm here, right? You attract weird.
You're in the right crowd.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know where Sam Shoot is. He decided he doesn't want to work with us anymore. Okay, it's kind of, you know, important. I'll
He didn't
say
write
that.
enough code. He's not happy about it.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, I guess I'll make it a string. Yeah, made you happy. All right, so now we got to randomize switching between the two and possibly randomize the number.
If you just put all the, because you still need to produce the token, brother. So, sorry, you still need to produce the query. You're just making it harder. Create a list of all the known tokens that we have, in addition to one randomly generated word, and then just sprinkle that. Sprinkle it randomly. That's it. Should I do it? Should I do it? Yeah? All right, I'll take it.
I think I know what you mean.
Okay, go.
So rather than doing...
So, okay, cancel all this and just write a function that says get random query. Get random query. And have this function return two things. A string and a list of O tokens. Just a tuple, basically.
It's going to return a list.
No, it's going to return a tuple of a string and a list of O tokens. Or an array of O tokens, if you may. Okay. Now bear with me. Right? Have this guy return default for now. So just type return default semicolon. Done. Hey, Paul, ever heard of this? Return default? Okay.
It looks like this, Paul.
You don't need the open.
No, I know.
I wrote code once, a very long time ago, though.
Yeah, at least a minute or two.
Yeah, it's nice to be reminded.
Okay, now let's create a list inside that function. Create a list of all the separator tokens and one word token that will be randomly generated. A, B, C. Can't you see? I guess in Paul's world it would be I by C. I B. Say A, Paul. Say A. I.
A.
Ah, screw you. Screw you, you faker. You're a faker. You're a faker library. Faker.net.
Like, not everybody speaks Cockney, you know? It's actually a thing.
What? What's Cockney?
You've never heard of Cockney?
No. Is that like yodeling in America?
No. Google Cockney rhyming slang.
Okay.
It's like a dialect of English that originated, I think, from London.
Oh boy.
You're crazy.
Basically like Londoners have their own just language.
Like in New York, you mean?
Yeah, basically, it's like its own little ecosystem, isn't it? So
Yeah, in New York they speak really weird, really weird. Like they don't say dollar, they say dollar, dollar,
dollar,
dollar. How do you
dollar.
say, Joe? Joe, aren't you in New York somewhere there?
Dollar.
No.
I'm upstate New York. Like I have
Yeah, but
trees and stuff and mountains, streams and
downtown though.
forests.
No, downtown New York City, dollar.
Yeah, we
Yeah,
don't have that.
dollar. By the way, Paul, if you know upstate New York, it's beautiful, especially in the spring. Oh my God, the leaves, the trees. I just go there just for the therapeutic experience. It's
Yeah, you
it's
can visit next
Nice.
time.
Yeah, we
yeah.
got trees over here.
Do you?
Yeah.
But are they American trees?
No, they're better. They're English trees.
That's not what I chose.
Hey, Paul, have you ever been to Sherwood Forest, whatever?
That's in the Midlands. But no.
Did you just say Midlands?
Yeah, Midlands. Yeah. Our tiny little island has like the south, the north, and Midlands. It's great.
Sure. That's so Lord of the Ring, man. I love British people. I just sit there and listen to them all day. Midlands. Okay.
Midlands.
That's not right.
What's your thought on inheritance?
Garbage. I will
Never?
inherit only one level. If you're inheriting more than one level, I will question your sanity.
So if I knew that, for example, I had 100 entities and I wanted basic CRUD plus stuff, would it be okay to build a broker that defined basic CRUD and implemented basic CRUD?
For
Okay.
every entity, yes.
For every entity.
Like
So
400.
well, I'd build say like a generic base one, then inherit that and tell it what T was.
Nope.
No?
Nope.
So how do you, so you end up basically repeating your lines, right?
A little, yeah.
So you must have a lot of duplicated code in your code base.
Of course.
Isn't that considered technical debt?
No.
The duplication of words doesn't mean duplication of code.
Well,
Right.
if I have a line of code that in all but one generic parameter is essentially the same, then why
Right.
rewrite that line of code 100 times when I can write it once and have that generic parameter filled in?
Because of two things. You know, it has a strategic aspect and it has a technical aspect. Since we're engineers, let's start with the technical aspect. You will never, first of all, I want to be able to go and unplug, just pluck out broker service controller for any entity and put it in a microservice and never have to worry about me being attached or coupled by anything, no matter what it is.
Okay.
So what you see is what you get. If you look at, I'm a big enemy of hidden code in places where you get lost. Oh, it's
So
inheriting.
let's take that. Let's run with it, right? So let's say I create a service T that provides basic CRUD for all services. And then I have inherited from that, I have all my various things. And then I add the additional functionality. Now, there's going to be some cases where there just isn't any additional functionality. So I could just declare the generic one and fill in the generic parameter. And literally all that generic functionality does is call down to the broker below it and calls the same functions in all cases. So I'm going to have a base iBroker interface that's going to define CRUD at the data layer level, essentially. So to my mind, it makes no sense to re-implement that functionality 100 times. If I have 100 entities, whereas like, because I'm basically saying, look, it's always the same. It never changes, right? All I'm ever going to do is make that call, but I can override it in the one or
but it
two
never
cases
is
where
though.
it might change.
That's the thing. It never is. Like sometimes you need add, sometimes you don't. Sometimes you need post, sometimes you don't intentionally.
But that's at your API level, right? internally, you need full CRUD on everything. Otherwise, what are you defining the entity for? If you can't create them, if you can't update them, if you can't delete them and then read them,
why would
have
you?
them?
You could have add and delete and completely ignore update.
Yeah, so like join table entities.
I call them relational entities, right? So you have these. You could have add and delete, but there is no update. You actually can't update because it's a composite primary key. You can't modify the primary key. It's there to represent a many-to-many relationship. What do you do then? Now your inheritance is adding in or offering capabilities that are not supposed to be there. But the more important aspect for me here is this. I want every single person joining a project that I'm working on to get a chance to build things end to end without any magic. That's the people aspect of it. Remember, I'm a people manager, right? I just so happens to write code,
I'm a
right?
people aggravator.
Shut your front door. So if you do it, so from a technical standpoint, you're offering capabilities that are not supposed to be there. From a people standpoint, you're taking away the opportunity from someone. This is what I was talking to Tim about the other day. I was telling him just yesterday, actually. I was telling him, okay, are you generating? He said, no, I'm not generating code. I was like, sheesh. Then what do you do when you want to do? He said, well, then you do on create. His mindset is very interesting. I like that guy. He's very smart. His mindset about this, how he's coming about doing this, is that he's going and saying, I don't even want to generate code. I want one unit, one big unit like this, like a Pruton, and there is a bunch of models around it.
He is generating code though, but he's just giving that code directly to the compiler. So in a way, he's generating code and then constructing the assembly from it immediately.
Not accessible code. Yes, I agree with you.
But he's not generating code in like the T4 templating sense of generating code, right?
Right.
But yeah, to my mind, it was kind of an interesting concept, but surely that means that all of his business logic is inherently hidden because it doesn't exist anymore.
It's magic. It's like those CMS systems. You go and drag and drop, and it does all the magic behind the scene for you, right? It's magic. When you're building something a little bit more sophisticated, you hit that really hard. That's why I say stay simple.
How do you test it?
And how do you even test that?
Yeah.
I even asked him the question about, the in-tier architecture. What if I want to? He said, sure, go ahead and generate services. Why not? No problem. I was like, his idea, there's something there. He's up to something. It's just not there yet. And I said
generate the test too.
You guys should see what Brian Parker is up to. You're gonna laugh. He's also doing something. That's why I called Brian Parker out. Said, "Hey, Brian." I mean, ideally, there will be a phase in the standard community where people start developing automatones, where they just create the broker and commit, create the service and create the test and commit, and then they develop the entire thing. But in order for you, but I will fight that as long as I can until everybody has the chance to build services end to end. And then people can go and automate and build their own automatones all they want. Let's see what Joe did. Hold on. Joe's doing stuff. What?
Yeah, I decided to test, and for some reason it wasn't grabbing this last one.
Well,
oh, that's good.
Where's the randomization though? First of all, just for readability, why don't you just say new token and just call that function, get random value? Why do you have to write code that complicates?
Do we have another one?
Bro, go back to your list.
Yeah.
Just type new token, new line, comma, new line, and then
I got you.
New O token, and then O token type word. There it is. Yeah, that whole line. Why do you have to complicate things?
Because I didn't get into reviewing or refactoring yet.
Okay, do Control KD and take the semicolon.
If you go down to there's a bit where you got a switch statement at the bottom in there where you generate a number and you pick.
That's what he needs to do next.
Yeah, so instead of declaring a list, generate a number and then do IEnumerable.range, that bottom line, 29. You're done.
What do you mean? He doesn't want to generate the one of each. He
No.
wants
Enumerable.range from 0 to some number.
Okay.
Yeah? Line 29.
Okay.
Then he will be given a range of random tokens. Oh, obviously you'd have to randomize the. He needs a function that generates a random token, just a single random token.
Okay, so he needs two things.
This is what you guys requested first.
Yeah,
we're testing for all the separators and then one random word token.
So now hear me out. Now all you gotta do is to find the size of this array, of this list, and create a function that generates a position in this array. And then another function that will randomly select that position and return a value of it, append a value to it. That's it.
Okay.
Why are you confused?
I'm thinking.
Can you do Control KD for all that is good and holy?
Just if Control KD did something, yes.
It didn't do nothing. Why?
That's because that's not how my key bindings are.
You're using Vim.
I'm not using Vim.
What are you using?
Visual Studio. Mine is Control ED.
Yikes.
He's got an Americanish keyboard.
We all didn't have the same upbringing and use of a keyboard. We all did things slightly differently. So my bindings are just slightly different than yours.
Yeah, most of us learned how to type, not Joe.
No, typing was not a class I did well at.
I never did good at typing.
Sorry, Joe.
No, Joe's all right. Like to tease Joe a little.
I know what I'm gonna do now. How many you want to generate?
A random number of them. So let's get a random number. There you go, and then put in there int. I don't know. Put 25 from 0 to 25. What's the maximum number? Let's do 0.25 for now.
I mean, yeah. I think you can just do max, yeah, so 25.
Well, that means it will generate minus for you, and it'll break your...
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Jerks. All right.
I need to write my own random value generation library, by the way. Because, yeah, anyway, so let's get another one that will basically give you a random number between 0 and the size of this list.
Yep. That doesn't need to be a list anymore. Get random token. All right. I'm going to get rid of this. All right, you said get a random number. We got our random number.
No, this is a random number for the words that you want to, like
the
position.
The amount we're going to do.
We want another one for the position. Right, and it's already exclusive, so you're... No, you don't need to do that. The second one is already outside of the range. Like max doesn't get included automatically.
Oh, okay. All right, so this is...
I had a senior engineer once yelling at me, be like, why is that not clear? I said, read the code, dude. It's open source.
Yeah, you gotta like either test it or read it.
Yeah.
Which
why are
I'm not doing either right now.
Well, that's why I'm here. So, okay, so what are we gonna do now, Joe? Now for every... So for this number, the selector, you're just gonna iterate until you get the number you want and put that in a list. And when you're putting that in a list, you're also building your query as you
Yep.
go. That's it. That's all that it is.
All right, so list. That's not how that works. I wish this auto thing wasn't.
Yeah, I don't know where this random list item come from.
It's like the first one it sees that's like an actual implementation, so it just uses it. Now it won't have that problem because my usings are proper. Last then.
Mhm.
Uh,
Why don't you just for each for loop normally, like a normal person?
because I don't need a for loop.
Okay.
So as long as my results are less than the total number that I want, it's just going to keep going. Or I
Right.
could do the for loop and do math and have 1 + 1 = 2 and
Right,
stuff.
but this one, this token selector, turn it into a function. Like just open close parentheses and fat arrow it.
Yep.
That's it. Take away, yep. Because this one needs to execute every single time, and you don't need the var anymore.
No.
I think you need you still need type const in there.
Oh, because it's going to be a func, yeah.
Yep.
Get out of here. What are you? Little stupid arrow thing. It's a func.
Right, and it's a func and it needs to return an int, right?
Func. We're working with Fox today.
Yeah.
Please just autocorrect for me.
Yep. Is it happy this way? You still need to get the
I don't
reference
have
though.
system. There we go. Okay. So now we got this. This is happy. That is declared never used. You are unhappy because
Take away the open close parentheses and put it after. Yep, so this equals open close parentheses. No. Just do equal.
Okay. Oh, yeah.
And then
There we go.
open close parentheses and then fat arrow. There you go. That should do it, hopefully.
There we go. Okay.
There you go.
That looks stupid, but we're good with it. Okay. So while we're last, we're gonna results add tokens
See, you need the iteration. Oh, actually, no, you're fine, actually. And then you also need your string builder because we need the query and the random tokens, right?
Oh, we already have that down below. Here.
Oh, you already got that one? Okay. I see what you're doing. Okay.
There. That should do it. It looks terrible, and I'll rewrite it in a moment.
Let's run it. If it passed, that means because unfortunately the implementation that we have actually solves that problem. We never created a need for it. Yeah, can you put a breakpoint and run it multiple times? Let's see what it produces every time.
Let's come back here.
It's gonna be really ugly, but that's okay. We want it to. You can literally stick a for loop in there.
Oh yeah, and just watch it a few times.
Yeah.
Um,
That's okay. That's
I might
okay.
actually do that.
Or you
Let's
could
get rid of this one.
you could also pull a Doctor Strange and just keep reverting time. Pull the carrot
Yeah,
up.
just keep dragging it up.
Yeah. So what does this one look like?
Where'd my
Oh
thing
my
go?
God,
There
this
it
is
is.
so small.
You're small.
Okay.
So that each of them have 10. We got an equals, a space, a romophysib.
Great. Why your word is redundant? Let's go back to your word generation.
Yeah. Stop.
Turn that into a function, like just open close parentheses. Do you see where you say get random word?
Get random word right here.
Yeah, turn that into a function so it executes every time we find it. No. Just the same way you were doing it, just turn it into a function. Like put
Okay. So we'll do that and
This will literally do that every single time. Every single time. What? Why do you need the scope?
because I don't want to have that stuff out there.
Fine, then.
There. Now we're good. No scope needed.
Well, single line it then. Single line it then. I'll fix that. Let's just go.
What do you mean single line it?
Well, your function has only one line, so you may as well
Oh.
just fat arrow the whole thing.
Yeah, you're right.
That's it. Stop right there. And then, yep,
And
there you go.
that looks dumb too. Get rid of you. All right. Okay.
Where is this red stuff coming from?
Oh, just because IntelliSense isn't caught up yet.
Okay. Now, if you go back.
You know, I've noticed that a lot lately. The background processes that Visual Studio is running are taking longer and longer.
Well, if you're working on the preview version, it'll do that to you.
Yeah, is it something to do with it being in a preview state? Is it like sending lots of information to Microsoft to debug?
Well, don't select the option then. Why is it not happy though?
Because it's a func that returns a func.
Oh, a monad. You just created a monad. Yay!
Now we need this. There. All right.
Let's just run it and see. It will give us different results, and then we can clean it up.
Yeah, I'm gonna make some googly eyes real quick. No, never mind. All right, that's enough of that. Oh, come back. I hit the undo button. Okay.
All right, Joe. I know. I'm sorry, Paul. It's a problem. Okay, where's the?
Fine. He's a parent.
Yeah.
Yeah, I go nuts every day.
He's a baby daddy.
Dad jokes.
Joe is a baby daddy.
Speedy. There we go. So now there's 0 tokens. So it's going to pass every time. So we broke something.
How did it pass though?
Because 0 tokens equals 0 tokens. it's going to pass.
You can't tokenize something if there is nothing. So nothing equals nothing.
All right. So stepping into.
You broke the get random value. You broke
that. Yeah, I did. That's weird. I mean, it should be working off this. There's no reason why it would be 0. So
maybe that because you made 0 a possibility. You should probably
no. Now it's
1.
not 0.
You should put 1 in your number of query parameters. That's why, buddy. Do you understand what I'm saying?
I think so. But I have completely different results now. And they're wrong. Okay.
Why are they?
So I have 11 versus 9.
Uh-oh. You broke it.
Yeah, I did. Okay.
Why did it break though? That's very interesting.
Oh, because it's calling the word thing twice, and in some cases it's appending.
Oh, you can't have a word. That's why. So we need additional kind of thing that goes and says, when you randomize, if you select a selector or a separator, select a word. And if you select a word, select a separator. Interesting. Interesting. See? Randomization. It's magic. Automation.
We've
I'm just gonna make
simplified the token types now that you can't have two consecutive token types in some situations. Like I said, when we were building it before, it was a case of if it was a separator.
Ooh, wait, Paul, that's just a revelation there. That's what the randomization does to you. It'll say, what if you get two words, in sequence, it will be considered one word. And we
Yeah.
just need, that's
Well,
the
there's
beauty
no
of
separator.
randomization. Huh?
Yeah.
So by the way, our business logic, our code is doing the right thing. We just need to be able to go and say, if you generate so inside your while loop, if the last token was a selector, you need to try again and again and again and again until you get a different result.
Kids, man.
Kids.
All right.
Okay.
So separators can come after separators, but words cannot come after words.
Yes.
All right. So
if you get a word, you need a separator. The tests tell the story a lot more clearer than the actual code.
yeah.
I've noticed from watching your streams, you write a lot more test code than you do code.
Yep.
It's bizarre how it all pans out, but
Yep.
the few lines of code that you do write are quite powerful and achieve quite a lot.
Yep. Thank you, Paul.
Right? Just an observation. I think it's sometimes difficult for people to see that unless you're looking at the kind of bigger picture. Particularly with the types of problems that I've had to solve lately. It's like actually realizing how little you achieve with a line of code unless it's well written is quite an interesting revelation in a lot of code bases.
I mean, if you can't test your code, so tests, here's what I realized. TDD forces you to be simple because it will force your brain to think about situations. How am I supposed to test this? So now your focus is more about the testing than anything else, right?
Yep.
Look at this brother here. He finally figured out a way to use continue.
I
I'm
know.
gonna burn that code to the ground.
Well, we'll fix it in a minute. It'll allow us to get to where we want to be.
You may as well use go-to statements since while
Here,
you're
I'll
at
fix
it. I swear to God, I'm getting it. It's just... Okay.
That's not what I wanted.
Yikes. Now you're just writing code like Paul.
There, got rid of the continue.
Actually, that's fair. My code is horrible.
This is not right either.
Why?
If it's not equal to word, then put it. Or if...
No, you need an and in there.
Are we now at a point where our test code is more complicated than our code?
Well,
yeah, it's because you guys keep complaining.
Well, we
Well,
start.
write simpler code then.
I did. You told me to change it.
Well, write simpler code then.
we will simplify it. I'll find time for it. Let's just see if we can get it running. Even the business logic code is too complicated. It needs simplification. Yikes.
Yeah, I know.
What is that?
I don't even know what that is.
Just throw that away. What's the matter with you? And why did that work before? Oh, did you delete all the code?
Oh, it created its own function. Now I gotta go undo. So results is in here twice. Oh. Wow, it did all sorts of weird stuff. Okay, there we go. It
Yeah.
added it as a method parameter.
You relied on the machine.
What the?
What?
It auto-generated this during
Yeah.
one of those
Yeah.
laggy moments
It
because of
did a little
the IntelliSense stuff.
did a little bit of thinking for you.
Yeah. And then I had to tell it not to think for me. Index was out of range.
Uh-oh.
Non-negative. So
Why index out of range? Because go back to your code real quick because you skipped something, right?
this selector index out of range. So it's got to be -1.
I don't think that's the problem, but let's go.
That's the only way to get it out of range.
Okay.
Yeah. Run. I don't know. You told me to write it, so
You did it, I didn't.
I was on the way. All right, let's
All right. All right.
I still don't
Okay.
like this.
So we're at the hour. Let's take a break and let's connect back on this. Feel free to simplify it as long as we, kind of explain the idea, of it. It should be okay. And if not, I'll just take care of it. Okay? Give it a shot. Give it your best shot to make it clean. And let's see what happens. Okay, peeps? Cool? Mites? I'll talk to you guys later. Take care.